I fell in love with Terry, honestly, the first day I saw her. I fell in love with her eyes. You get lost in them sometimes. And she's beautiful, of course. She's amazing. She loved me unconditionally. You can't find that everywhere. You can't, and it's hard to find somebody who loves you for you.
I was sitting in my dorm room, and he comes in and he's wearing this Ralph Lauren robe, and he has the slippers, and he's just looking so debonair. And I'm like, look at this guy. He really thinks he's something. But I always had a little crush on him, and we just became really close friends. And he was somebody that no matter what kind of day I was having, he can turn it around and just have me dying laughing, because he's just that funny, and he's just a great person to be around.
Well, Terry always knew that I was gonna marry her. And I knew I was gonna marry her. When I seen Terry walking down the aisle, coming towards me, I just had to get up. I felt disrespectful sitting down. She was walking towards me and looking at me so beautiful. So I took everything out of me just to stand up.
I just burst into tears because he just gathered all his strength and stood up from the wheelchair. And it was just like, wow, this guy, he's been in bed and in a wheelchair for like a while now, like 3 weeks, and he just stood up on his own and received me, and it was just beautiful. We made little jokes, like that's how we are. We were looking at each other, just laugh and making little jokes, and it was just a beautiful ceremony. We tried to establish a life in New York City, and it was really hard. You know, it felt like we couldn't get a break, so we had some family in Schenectady, and they said, you know, you guys can move up here, and we moved up, and we were searching for jobs because there are more job availability out there. So once we got out there, it was pretty rough in the beginning, and eventually we got our own feet. We were able to leave the shelter system and actually get our own apartment, which was awesome for us. We were so happy with our first apartment. We were living on Madison Street in the Stockade, and I was at work at the time, and something told me to answer the phone. It was a private number. I answered. It was an officer, and she's like, he was in an altercation. And I'm like, I'm thinking it's a fight, and she's like, he got shot. And she couldn't tell me his condition or, you know, what happened. But I couldn't see him or hear his condition, if he survived the 8 surgeries he had. I couldn't hear any information because we weren't married at the time. I wasn't next of kin or anything. So it was pretty rough for me. I felt like my whole life was, you know, coming to an end, because this guy that I love so much, we just established our life, and I might lose him. Even the condition he was in, I was so happy to finally see him. And it was just amazing. Even though he was in such a bad state, he had like an infection and his stomach was bloated, but I knew he was gonna be fine. And the doctors told me, you know, he had went twice on the table, but he made it through. And I said, you know, God brought him back for a reason. When he had another surgery from a hernia that was, you know, expected from the shooting and stuff, something happened where some liquid came out, and we went back and they said, you know, we see something on there, we would like to do a biopsy. And then we got the news that he has this incurable cancer, and you know, people don't really live long with this type of cancer. It's really aggressive. And we were just both taken aback. Like, he just lived through something horrific, and now he's gonna have to fight again. He's been fighting all his life. Hospice is usually where you go unfortunately, when, you know, medical resources are exhausted and they don't really know how long you have. So this is where you go to basically focus on comfort, so you can have that quality of life where, you know, living your last days. The staff is so caring. It's like a family in here. Whenever he needs them, they come running, like, Chris, you okay? You know, they make sure we're all all right. Even us visitors, the family, they make sure we're okay. And it doesn't feel like, you know, he's dying, you know. It feels like just a home away from home. He's getting stronger. Like before, when we were in the hospital, it was looking pretty bad, you know. It was getting worse. But in the hospital, it's not really like homey. It's just nurses coming in all the time, you know, constantly interrupted, you know. You can't really have that much visitors. But here, it's like we can stay here with him. It can feel like home. And he can get that medical attention he needs so he can have a good life.